Down the Law is sponsored by Battle-Born Injury Lawyers.
Well, as you saw from those live pictures there, lawmakers on the floor of the House debating the article of impeachment against President Trump. Now, the charge comes after Trump supporters took over the Capitol 1 week ago today and ultimately led to riots and the death of 5 people. Now, with allegations of treason, sedition, insurrection, and the actual article of impeachment, many are asking, what do these crimes mean and who could be held accountable and what ultimately has to be proven? So here to break down the law like he always does is attorney Matt Hoffmann with Battle-Born Injury Lawyers. So Matt, okay, let's speak to the actual article of impeachment that's against President Trump. So we actually know that that is the incitement of insurrection. So how does that square up against allegations of insurrection, sedition, and treason as we know them to be? Like, are there different standards there?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that, because when you have impeachment is for the removal of the president, and that's solely in the hands of Congress. Totally different standard than the criminal standard to actually convict somebody of something like insurrection. And with the articles of impeachment, I think it was Gerald Ford said that a crime is impeachable if the Senate says it is. If Congress says it's impeachable and they vote to impeach, I guess it was impeachable. And so that's the standard you have there. But as to the actual criminal acts that are in the U.S. Code for insurrection, sedition, treason, vastly different. So, you know, people say the word treason. Well, treason is, I mean, we're talking about the highest crime you can commit against the United States. That's literally waging war against the U.S. Think back to the Civil War, where people, you know, generals in the North would defect to the South. Treason. You know, when the British, if somebody sided with the British during the Revolutionary War, that's treason. It's punishable by death. So that's no joke. And I don't think that anyone really thinks there's any, you know, possibility of convicting people of treason in what happened last Wednesday. But when you get to things like sedition, so sedition is an active conspiracy to overthrow the government or to oppose the government by force. Now, that requires a meeting of the minds. You have to have people actually form a conspiracy in order to be convicted of sedition. So as to the people who entered Congress, I mean, now they've been charged with these other crimes. What they're going to do is find out more information. Was this planned? Was there things on social media? Was there gathering points? Was there something that, you know, were they doing reconnaissance missions the day before when they were getting tours? If that comes out, that yes, this was a, you know, an effort that had been planned, then absolutely they could be charged with sedition. As to President Trump and his speech, I don't think it rises to the level of sedition because, again, you have to have a meeting of the minds. You have to have an actual conspiracy. Political speech to a group, pretty hard to form a conspiracy there. So I don't see that happening as a criminal element outside of the actual impeachment. And then you have insurrection. That's an organized and armed uprising against the government. So organized, again, we go to the you know, conspiracy type argument. You organize this event, but then armed. So you have to have both. You have to be an organized, armed attempt to take over the government. And from everything I've seen, it doesn't seem like most of the people involved with the Capitol incident were armed. There were some. I know that one person placed like 11 bombs. And, you know, people became armed once they got in there. But that's where you might see some of the facts come out that support an allegation of insurrection. Again, as to President Trump, from a criminal aspect, do I see insurrection? Probably not. But I think it's the most, you know, appropriate word to use in the articles of impeachment because it's incitement. And then we know there was what could be argued was an insurrection. But as to the impeachment thing, you know, it's going to go through the House. I think they're going to vote for it. And then it's going to go to the Senate. And the question is going to be, can you impeach a president who's out of office? And President Trump would argue you can't, but I don't know that the Senate's going to care. You know, they might just vote for impeachment to prevent Donald Trump from being able to run for president again in 2024.
And that's
because
something else we've been talking about, Matthew, not to cut across you there, but you
No,
know,
it's fine.
what are some of the consequences should the impeachment move forward with regard to the future of Donald Trump and political office? But definitely to the point about the charges that you were listing and how it could apply to those who involved in this incident at the Capitol. I know the FBI and DOJ saying they have at least 160 cases open, so we'll see how this all ultimately plays out. But thank you so much. Appreciate your insight as always, and we'll break down the law next Wednesday.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, Matthew.